Hey folks, welcome back to the farm. It's early spring and it's the best time to start thinking about weed control. So stick around, we'll talk about it and we'll get some done. So springtime, it's when everything starts growing, everything starts waking up, things start sprouting, and a lot of things you don't want to sprout start sprouting. And it's the best time before it gets out of control, and while everything's growing really good and very vigorous, is the best time to spray for weeds, because it really takes the weed spray in, and it does a good job when things are growing good. So let's go out to the fruit tree, the fruit orchard, because we got stuff to do out there. We've got weeds coming up and we got to take care of those. We got our strip spray done this morning. We had a little break in the wind. The wind's coming up now. Usually in the morning it's calm and then it comes up later. As you can see, our strip spray here. We put the pattern marking material in the mix so we can see where we sprayed. We do it whenever we do the larger locations, like when we used to spray the driveway. It lets you know where you've already sprayed so you're not wasting a bunch of material. And then we also sprayed around the chicken coop. It's just basically mowing borders is all this is. Now on the inside, I have the type of spray that you can spray right up to the bottom of the tree and it won't hurt it. But check your labels. Not all weed spray can be sprayed around fruit trees. So make sure you know what you're spraying. But in the middles, I've been doing that. Like when I go hoe around out in the garden, I'll come through here real quick. And if there's one or two weeds around the tree inside these cages, I just knock them out real quick. And we sprayed around the greenhouse. Got all that done so we can mow. Now, if you're worried about the blue dye being ugly, it only hangs around for about a day or two. And then it fades out and you won't see it no more. And this blue material, basically all it is a copper, is all it is. It's non-toxic, so you're not adding a bunch of toxicity to your spray, even though it looks pretty toxic, I guess. It's really not. So it doesn't hurt your animals, but the other stuff in the spray, you're not supposed to spray around your animals. You can make sure this stuff is good and dry before you let any animals out in this. This is the stuff right here. We've showed it before on the channel. And all it does is mark where you're spraying. It works really good for spot spraying too if you're just walking around, because then you can see where the spots you've already sprayed. And you can get it at any farm store that sells this stuff. And it says right on the back it's formulated to be non-toxic. So it's not bad stuff. Now, if you're in an area where you don't need to irrigate your fruit trees, if you get enough annual rain and weekly rain and all that, you don't have to do these long strips. We only do these because the drip hose is out along the ground. Back when I was out in California and we had like flood irrigation, we would only do just around the trees. There'd be a block that like you couldn't disc, because you'd run the disc both ways in the orchard, and you'd end up with a square around the tree. And that's the only areas that we would spray back in the day. And if you didn't have to irrigate, that's all you would have to do. Or you could do like we did with our runner lines. We buried them underground. You could bury this from tree to tree, or actually all the way through. If you're planting an orchard, bury your drip hose, and then all you got to do is run a 1/4 inch spaghetti tube up at each tree. And then you can mow all this and you don't have to worry about it. And if you ever have to fix it or whatever, you just dig down a couple inches, you find the main line, and you can plug whatever you need to into that. It works really good doing it that way if you can plan ahead. This stuff, a lot of this stuff was already established, so we couldn't bury it in the ground. The other thing about being precise with your spray, you're not overspraying. So it does help with environmental stuff. You're not putting down too much where it's going to cause a problem. So that project is done. We're going to move on to another one. Now, the other very common way around the homestead that we take care of weeds is by mulching. And we have an area here by the windmill tower that we're going to do that in. So let's show you what we're going to do here. So first things first, we're going to be a little proactive, and we're going to get some water over there so we're not having to hand water that all the time. So I have the end of the drip hose here that comes around the chicken coop, and now that we've split this system off from the garden, we've got plenty of capacity. So I'm going to come on here with some main drip tubing and extend this out. I'm going to come by this bush, put a dripper here because this bush doesn't get any water and will do a lot better if it does. And then we're going to continue the hose on underground below grade over to the windmill where we can water whatever we need over there. And this is summer use only, so we don't have to get this 5 feet in the ground like a normal water line to keep it from freezing. So we're going to go in and get the tubing from the shop and we'll get this laid in here. Got our area filled in here. Got it as flat as I think we can get it. We raked it out and then we raked around the windmill to get it as flat as we could before we start laying brick. We went and got some brick from out back with the tractor. The good thing about them being on the tractor is I could raise them up and I'm not picking them up from ground level. But I need to go get some bolts and reattach this ladder section down here, so I need to do that real quick before I lay bricks up against it. So I'll get that done and then we'll start laying brick. Got our bricks laid around here with a little help from Kelly. Now underneath the windmill you always had these pump jacks like this one here. This one's got some history. It actually came from my aunt and uncle's farm. So you know how I love history. Got all of our weeds burnt off. We connected our drip hose to our main line hose and we cap the end of it there. We turn the system on and make sure we don't have any blowouts or anything. It's dripping fine. And remember, these drip hoses water like 3 feet wide, so this will be plenty to water this area here. So while I'm in town tomorrow, I'll pick up the mulch to put in this square and then we'll show you what it looks like. Got our mulch in. Looks pretty nice. Now there's about 4 inches of good mulch in this bed, and you want bare minimum 3 to 4 inches to keep your weeds down. You don't need to put down weed barrier or none of that. That stuff always ends up coming up on the edges and stuff gets underneath it and it turns into an ugly mess. You just don't need it. And I'll prove it to you. I'll go show you beds that are 2 years old and still don't have any weeds. Here's our front flower beds. If you remember, we did a video on this when we did all this woodwork here and we mulched it. You can see there is no weeds growing in this. The hydrangeas have not come back yet this year, but they're starting. This is actually the favorite place the dogs like to lay down out here for some reason in this mulch. So Kelly this year is actually going to put barrels, half barrels here and here so the dogs don't lay in the barrels. But over here you can see this is actually a plant, a flowering plant that's coming back, but no weeds at all. This bed is 2 years old, no issues. Now that we've got the windmill project all mulched for weed control, now we're going to start thinking about the driveway. You can see here in the driveway we're starting to get stuff germinating. There's a little more out here in the middle, and there's some along that edge, and then some down the middle of the driveway down there. But we have the perfect tool for the job. We no longer have to weed spray this driveway. Now this is our driveway hoe that we made. Connects to the 3-point end of the tractor. And all it is a piece of grater bit on the bottom, which is a piece of steel that they put on the front of grater blades. It's got a bevel on the front. But we put this together to do the weeds in our driveway. You could also use it in your garden if your garden rows were far enough apart. So we'll show you how this works. Brandy, did we get all them weeds? Yeah? Yeah? Does it pass inspection? So you can see all of our weeds are gone, and we ran over the driveway real quick with our driveway drag to kind of even things back out, but looks nice. That tool is amazing. So much better than weed spray and all this. Been a couple days making this video, as you probably figured out by all the wardrobe changes, but you can see the blue dye marker is already faded. Kelly's doing her favorite task around the homestead. I am a lucky man. Love you too. I'll be back. All right, folks, that is a wrap. We've got quite a bit done today, but if you haven't already, get out there and take care of them weeds early in the spring. So till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here on Mark Kelly Farm.